Warning: some places on Earth don't just cause people to get lost, they erase them. Japan's Aokigahara Forest is one of those places. A forest many believe doesn't let everyone leave. This isn't just a story about losing your way. It's about a place that seems to actively swallow people whole, leaving behind nothing but chilling questions and a silence that screams. At the base of the majestic Mount Fuji, there lies a vast, dense forest called Aokigahara. From a bird's eye view, it's a serene sea of green. It looks peaceful, silent, even beautiful, a perfect picture of nature's tranquility. But the moment you step under its canopy, that illusion shatters. Everything changes. The trees here grow in a suffocating embrace, so tightly woven together that sunlight barely kisses the forest floor. The air becomes still, the wind dies. The chirping of birds fades into an eerie quiet. Soon, the only sound you hear is the thumping of your own heart and the sound of your own breathing. Visitors who have dared to venture inside say the silence isn't peaceful. It's heavy, oppressive. It feels like you're being watched, as if the forest itself is holding its breath, listening to your every move. And then, your sense of direction begins to betray you. The forest floor is a treacherous landscape of volcanic rock from an ancient eruption of Mount Fuji. Gnarled, mossy roots snake across the ground like twisted veins, waiting to trip you. Hidden caves, dark and deep, can open up unexpectedly right under a pile of leaves. But the truly terrifying part is how technology fails. Compasses start spinning wildly, their needles dancing without reason. GPS signals vanish. Your phone, no bars. It becomes a useless brick in your pocket. Even the most experienced hikers and survivalists report that the concept of direction becomes meaningless here. You can swear you're walking in a perfectly straight line, keeping a landmark in sight, only to find yourself, hours later, right back where you started. That's when the first whispers of panic begin to creep into your mind. A cold, quiet dread that starts in your stomach and spreads through your veins. Every year, volunteer search teams and police officers organize sweeps through Aokigahara. They are looking for those who have been reported missing, those who walked into the trees and never walked out. What they find paints a disturbing picture. They discover belongings left behind, abandoned as if their owners simply evaporated. Tents, still zipped up and untouched. Backpacks, fully packed for a journey that was never completed. Sometimes, they find shoes, placed neatly side by side at the base of a tree, as if someone took them off before continuing on barefoot. In some cases, journals are found, their pages filled with words describing mounting fear, utter confusion, and deep, heart-wrenching regret. But so often, the most terrifying discovery is no discovery at all. They find nothing. People vanish without a single trace. There are no footprints leading away from their last known spot. No signs of a struggle. No evidence of what happened. Just a profound and complete absence. A few who have entered the forest's grasp have managed to escape. They survive, and their stories are deeply unsettling. Many of them report the same chilling sensation, the constant feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Others describe hearing distinct footsteps crunching on the leaves behind them, only to turn around and find nothing but empty, silent woods. Some have sworn they saw shadowy figures moving between the trees, just at the edge of their vision. Figures that would dissolve into the gloom the moment they tried to get a better look. One survivor's account is particularly harrowing. He claimed that a disembodied voice called his name over and over again in a soft, persuasive whisper, even though he was completely and utterly alone. Others can't point to a specific sight or sound. They just describe a sudden, overwhelming wave of pure dread, an animalistic terror so powerful it forced them to run, blindly, and without direction, just to get away from a threat they could unsee, but could feel with every fiber of their being. The local communities have a deep-seated respect and fear for Aokigahara. There's an unwritten rule: never enter the forest after sunset. This fear is rooted in ancient folklore, stories, and legends passed down through generations. These tales speak of yurei, the restless spirits of those who were abandoned in the forest centuries ago during times of famine, souls left to perish without peace or proper burial. The legends say they still wander the dark woods, forever lost, forever searching, and perhaps they are lonely. Perhaps they don't want to be alone in their eternal, silent suffering. This belief adds another layer of supernatural dread to a place already fraught with natural dangers. Is it just the magnetic rock and dense trees that cause people to get lost? Or is there something else at play? Something ancient and sorrowful that actively lures people deeper into the shadows. Aokigahara remains one of the world's most feared and mysterious forests. It's a place where the veil between the natural and the supernatural feels terrifyingly thin. It's a stark reminder that some places on our planet hold secrets we may never understand. Places where the normal rules of reality seem to bend and break, because sometimes people go in and they simply never return. Next time on Tales of the Dark, we travel to a remote ranch in the American West, where the disappearances are just as baffling, but the victims may not be human at all. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single nightmare. Deep in the heart of Utah's Uinta Basin, there's a sprawling 512-acre property that defies all explanation. It's known as Skinwalker Ranch, and for centuries, it has been a nexus of the strange, the terrifying, and the downright impossible. This isn't just a modern mystery sparked by internet forums. The fear surrounding this land is ancient. Long before settlers arrived, local Native American tribes, like the Ute, spoke of this place with a hushed reverence and absolute dread. They considered the land cursed, a pathway for malevolent, shape-shifting entities they called skinwalkers. They warned outsiders, in no uncertain terms, never to set foot on the property, and especially never to make it their home. They believed something unnatural, something not of this world, roamed the land, and to cross its path was to invite a fate worse than death. But like many old warnings, theirs was eventually ignored. In 1994, the Sherman family, Terry and Gwen, purchased the ranch. They weren't looking for trouble. They were looking for the opposite. They dreamed of a quiet, pastoral life, raising their prized cattle and living peacefully off the land. They had no idea they were about to step into a living nightmare. From almost the very first day, their dream of tranquility was shattered by a relentless barrage of high strangeness. One of the first and most terrifying encounters happened shortly after they moved in. They spotted a massive wolf-like creature on their property. This wasn't just a large wolf. It was colossal, with an unsettling, almost intelligent look in its eyes. Terry Sherman, a seasoned rancher, didn't hesitate. He grabbed his rifle and fired. The bullet struck the creature, but it didn't even flinch. It just stood there, completely unfazed. He fired again, at close range. The creature finally reacted, but not by falling. It simply turned and trotted away, leaving the family in a state of shock and disbelief. This was just the beginning. They would see strange, hulking creatures watching them from the fields, their forms just at the edge of perception. And then came the livestock mutilations. The Sherman's cattle, the foundation of their livelihood, became the primary targets of the unseen forces on the ranch. One night, they would lock their herd in a secure corral, and by morning, one of their prize animals would be found dead in a field over a mile away. The scenes were gruesome and baffling. The carcasses were mutilated with what could only be described as surgical precision. Organs were removed through small, cauterized holes, often without a single drop of blood being spilled on the animal or the surrounding ground. There were never any tracks, no human footprints, no tire marks, nothing. Just a perfectly mutilated animal, lying in a field as if it had been dropped from the sky. The precision was so extreme that it baffled veterinarians and law enforcement officials who investigated. One moment, A cow would be grazing peacefully in a field, and the next, it would be gone. No sound, no struggle, just an empty patch of grass. In one particularly chilling account, a rancher watched in horror as one of his animals was seemingly pulled backward into a wall of complete darkness that opened up in the middle of a sunlit field. The animal was dragged into the void and disappeared in a matter of seconds. Then, the darkness itself simply snapped shut, leaving no trace. Others reported seeing animals levitated off the ground, held in a beam of light, before being pulled up into the sky and disappearing completely. These weren't just stories. These were first-hand accounts from terrified eyewitnesses who were losing their livestock and their sanity. How do you protect your property from something that can make a 1-ton animal disappear without a trace, in broad daylight? The answer was, you can't. As if the creature's sightings and vanishing cattle weren't enough, the skies above Skinwalker Ranch were just as active and terrifying as the ground below. The Sherman family and subsequent investigators documented countless sightings of unidentified flying objects. These weren't just distant specks of light. They were large, silent, glowing orbs and triangular craft that would hover motionlessly for hours, then shoot across the sky at impossible speeds. Brightly colored orbs, often described as blue, red, or orange, would dart playfully across the fields, seemingly interacting with the land and its inhabitants. Some witnesses reported these orbs moving with a kind of intelligence, as if they were scouting the area or observing the people on the ranch. Perhaps the most disturbing aerial phenomena were what witnesses described as glowing portals or dimensional doorways. These objects of light would appear in midair, sometimes looking like a shimmering window into another place. In a few terrifying accounts, witnesses claimed to have seen large, non-human creatures step out of these portals, walk around on the ranch, and then step back through before the light vanished. It was as if the ranch itself was an interdimensional bus stop for beings we couldn't possibly comprehend. The stories eventually attracted the attention of Las Vegas real estate magnate and aerospace billionaire Robert Bigelow, fascinated by the paranormal. He purchased the ranch from the beleaguered Shermans in 1996 and founded the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS. His goal was to apply rigorous scientific methodology to study the bizarre phenomena. He brought in a team of highly credentialed scientists, physicists, biologists, and engineers and outfitted the ranch with state-of-the-art surveillance equipment. Cameras, sensors, and investigators were everywhere, all trying to capture definitive proof. But the ranch seemed to have a mind of its own. Equipment would malfunction inexplicably. Brand new batteries would drain in minutes. Cameras would shut off right at the moment something strange was about to happen. Despite the technical difficulties, the team did document many of the same events the Shermans had reported. They saw the orbs, they tracked UFOs on radar, and they experienced a palpable sense of being watched by an unseen intelligence. But the psychological toll was immense. Many seasoned investigators and hardened scientists found themselves utterly terrified. Some reported seeing shadow figures darting at the edge of their vision. Others felt an overwhelming sense of dread and malevolence, or reported being followed by an unseen force, not just on the ranch, but all the way back to their homes. Several researchers quit abruptly, refusing to continue their work. To this day, some refuse to publicly discuss the specific events that drove them away, their silence speaking volumes about the depth of the horror they experienced. They came as skeptics, and they left as believers, deeply shaken by what they found. Today, Skinwalker Ranch is under new ownership, a team dedicated to continuing the investigation. The phenomena persist. The glowing orbs still dance in the night sky. Strange electromagnetic frequencies are still being recorded, and that chilling feeling of being watched never seems to fade. Even now, many locals, whose families have lived in the basin for generations, refuse to get too close. They won't cross certain parts of the property line, especially after dark. They respect the ancient warnings, understanding that some boundaries are not meant to be crossed. They know that when you stare into the abyss of Skinwalker Ranch, there's a very real chance that something there, is staring back. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the unknown. If you found this mystery as fascinating as I did, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because our next investigation takes us to a place that doesn't just make animals disappear, it swallows entire ships and planes. You won't want to miss it. A word of warning: do not fly or sail here alone. There are some waters that don't just swallow ships, they erase them. Pilots vanish into thin air. Entire crews disappear without a trace. And sometimes, no one ever finds so much as a single piece of wreckage. This is the Bermuda Triangle, stretching between the shores of Florida, the island of Bermuda, and the coast of Puerto Rico. This infamous patch of the Atlantic Ocean has been linked to hundreds of unexplained disappearances. It's a place where reality seems to fray at the edges. Entire planes and ships have vanished mid-journey, often in clear weather. Modern radar, our most advanced eyes on the sea and sky, frequently detects nothing out of the ordinary, right up until the moment of disappearance. Onboard compasses spin wildly, electronic equipment fails, and experienced sailors have reported a chilling sense of dread, refusing to cross these waters after dark. Locals who live on the surrounding islands whisper that the triangle itself does not want visitors. They say it has a will of its own, an appetite for those who dare to cross it. One of the most famous and chilling cases is that of Flight 19. On a clear afternoon in December 1945, a squadron of 5 U.S. Navy bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for a routine training mission. These were experienced pilots, flying reliable aircraft. But a little over an hour into their flight, something went terribly wrong. The squadron leader radioed in, his voice filled with confusion. He reported that both of his compasses were failing. He couldn't see land. The horizon was lost in a strange, disorienting haze, and they couldn't determine their direction. Their last known words, broadcast over the crackling radio, were haunting. "We don't know where west is. Everything is wrong. We can't be sure of any direction. Even the ocean doesn't look as it should." Then, there was only silence. A massive search and rescue operation was launched. A Martin Mariner rescue plane, carrying a crew of 13, was sent to locate the missing squadron. But that rescue plane also vanished. It disappeared from radar without a distress call, without leaving a trace. No wreckage, no bodies, no explanation. Just gone. Over the decades that followed, the disappearances continued. Private planes on sunny days, massive cargo ships on calm seas, even modern well-equipped yachts. In some of the most eerie cases, vessels were found drifting perfectly intact. The schooner, Carol A. Deering, for instance, was discovered run aground off North Carolina, its sails still set. On board, a meal was laid out on the table. The ship's log was open, but the entire crew was gone. It was as if they had been plucked from the ship in an instant. In other cases, the vessels simply never returned, swallowed by an unseen force. The mysteries aren't limited to the air. The sea itself seems to hold a darker secret. In March 1918, the USS Cyclops, a massive U.S. Navy cargo ship over 500 feet long, disappeared while sailing through the Triangle. It was carrying over 300 men and a heavy cargo of manganese, or the journey was routine. The sea was reported to be calm, and the ship never sent a single distress call. It just vanished. To this day, not one piece of debris from the Cyclops has ever been found. It remains the single largest loss of life in U.S. naval history, not involving combat. Witnesses to other incidents in the area report seeing strange phenomena just before a disappearance. Unexplained lights hovering over the water, a bizarre glowing green haze that descends without warning. In some stories passed down by sailors, they describe a feeling of being watched right before calamity strikes. Compasses don't just spin, they break. Time itself seems to become distorted, with watches and clocks stopping or running backward. Survivors of near disasters in the Triangle often describe a sudden, overwhelming sense of disorientation, nausea, and a primal panic that they can't explain. A few have even claimed they saw ghostly ships, old-fashioned vessels drifting silently in the fog, crewless and aimless. just moments before their own instruments went haywire. So, what is really happening out there? Scientists have proposed a range of natural explanations. They point to the possibility of massive, unpredictable rogue waves that can tower over 100 feet high, capable of swamping even the largest ships in an instant. Another theory involves sudden eruptions of methane gas from the ocean floor. These gas blowouts could, in theory, create a frothy, low-density patch of water that would cause the ship to lose buoyancy and sink like a stone, leaving no time for a distress call. Unusually strong and erratic magnetic fields in the area could also explain the navigational chaos, causing compasses and electronic systems to fail. But many experienced pilots and sea captains who have navigated these waters for years say that these scientific theories do uncover everything they've seen. They talk about anomalies that seem to defy the laws of physics, storms that appear out of a clear blue sky and vanish just as quickly, strange glowing orbs of light that follow their vessels for miles, and even reports of the water itself rising unnaturally beneath their hulls, as if being pushed up from below by an unseen force. These first-hand accounts have fueled more speculative, more chilling theories. Some believe that an unknown force, perhaps ancient and intelligent, resides in the depths, pulling people into another dimension. Could it be a gateway, a portal to somewhere else? The Bermuda Triangle remains one of Earth's greatest, most unsettling mysteries, and its dark waters, it seems, are still hungry. Every year, travelers continue to disappear within its boundaries. Some of these cases never make the headlines. They become whispers in maritime folklore, ghost stories told in hushed tones in seaside bars. Others become legends, their names forever linked to the mystery of the deep. After hearing all this, the question remains, would you dare to sail or fly here, or will you leave the triangle to the ocean, and to its secrets? Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story promises to give you a new nightmare. Join us next time, as we explore the forest in Europe that is said to be alive, and takes whatever, and whoever, it wants. If you ever find yourself in Romania, there's one place you must avoid after dark. Do not, under any circumstances, enter the Hoja Buciu forest after sunset. People go in, and sometimes they return hours later, with no memory of what happened. Some never return at all. Just outside the city of Cluj-Napoca lies a forest that has earned a chilling reputation. Hoja Buciu is known to many as the world's most haunted forest, and for good reason. Visitors who dare to step beneath its twisted canopy often report a sudden wave of dizziness, a crippling nausea that comes out of nowhere, and even strange rashes or burns appearing spontaneously on their skin. But the physical symptoms are often overshadowed by a psychological one, an overwhelming, crushing sense of dread. For decades, strange, inexplicable lights have been captured on camera, floating silently between the trees. These aren't just camera artifacts. People see them with their own eyes. Even seasoned hikers and paranormal investigators have described seeing shadowy figures darting at the edge of their vision, disappearing the moment they try to get a closer look. The forest feels alive, and it feels like it's watching you. The trees themselves are bizarre, growing in twisted, unnatural spirals, as if they're trying to escape something rooted deep in the soil. Locals have whispered for generations that this place is a gateway, a portal to another dimension, and that those who get lost here don't just lose their way, they lose time itself. The phenomenon of missing time is one of the most disturbing aspects of Hoja Buciu. There are countless reports of people entering the forest for what they thought was just a few minutes, only to emerge hours later. They have no recollection of the time that has passed. They might wake up in a completely different part of the forest, far from where they entered, feeling disoriented and terrified. It's not just a modern legend, either. Historically, shepherds have reported losing entire flocks of sheep in the blink of an eye. The animals simply vanish, as if swallowed by the earth. More recent accounts tell of hikers who become separated from their group for a moment, only to reappear hours later, dazed and unable to explain what happened to them. They describe a feeling of being pulled away, of their surroundings blurring, and then, Nothing, just a gap in their memory. Local legends offer a sinister explanation. They say the forest is a living entity, a conscious being. It's always watching, always waiting, and it feeds on the fear and the life force of those who linger too long within its grasp. According to these tales, the souls of peasants who were murdered here centuries ago are trapped, their spirits forever bound to the woods, and they are not friendly to intruders. It's easy to dismiss these stories as folklore or mass hysteria, but there's a scientific side to the mystery of Hojabuchu that is just as unsettling. Researchers and investigators have brought all sorts of equipment into the forest, and the results are baffling. They have consistently recorded significant electromagnetic anomalies throughout the area. Compasses spin wildly, GPS devices fail, and cameras or phones suddenly shut down with fully charged batteries. The forest seems to have its own energy field, one that interferes with modern technology. Even more strange are the photographs. People have taken pictures of empty clearings, only to find mysterious orbs of light, or even distinct humanoid figures in the developed images, figures that were not there when the photo was taken. Some scientists try to rationalize these phenomena, suggesting that the unique geological and magnetic properties of the area could induce hallucinations in the human brain. They argue that the feelings of dread, the nausea, and the strange visions are simply tricks of the mind. But the survivors, the ones who have experienced the missing time and seen the shadow people, swear that what they felt was real. It wasn't a hallucination. It was something tangible, something intelligent, and something deeply malevolent. They believe this science doesn't explain the phenomena. It just measures the symptoms of a much darker presence. The sheer volume of personal accounts from Hojabuchu is staggering, and they all share a terrifyingly similar thread. Visitors from all over the world tell stories of feeling unseen hands, touching their shoulders or grabbing their arms. Others describe a powerful, invisible force pushing them, trying to guide them toward a steep ravine or a dangerously thick part of the woods. Whispers are another common report, disembodied voices that seem to come from all directions at once, sometimes calling the visitor's name, luring them deeper into the forest. One hiker shared a particularly chilling experience. He was walking along a path when he saw a distinct, dark shadow step out from behind one tree and move toward another. It was the shape of a person, but completely black, devoid of any features. He was an experienced outdoorsman and wasn't easily scared, so he cautiously approached the spot where it had vanished. There was nothing there. No footprints, no broken twigs, nothing to indicate anyone had been there. But as he stood there, a feeling of pure panic, unlike anything he had ever felt, washed over him. He described it as a primal fear that completely bypassed his rational mind, forcing him to sprint out of the forest without looking back. Others describe a similar feeling, a wave of terror that either freezes them in place or sends them running for their lives, their actions no longer under their own control. It's as if the forest itself can reach into your mind and flip a switch, turning you from a curious visitor into a terrified victim. The message is clear. Hojabuchu Forest does not welcome strangers. The locals, who have lived in its shadow for generations, will tell you the same thing. Leave before sunset. Do not test the spirits that dwell within. And if you ever walking among its twisted trees, and you get that unmistakable feeling that you are being watched, you probably are. Next time on Tales of the Dark, we travel to the Ural Mountains, where a group of 9 experienced hikers were found dead in the most bizarre and terrifying circumstances. They fled their tent in the middle of the night, some of them barefoot in sub-zero temperatures, into a fate that investigators are still unable to explain. Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a new nightmare. Thanks for watching. Nine experienced hikers set off on an adventure, full of life, full of spirit. The mountain still remembers what happened that night, and what it remembers is terrifying. Welcome to Dyatlov Pass, a name that has become synonymous with one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. In late January 1959, a group of 9 students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, led by Igor Dyatlov, embarked on a challenging winter expedition. Their diaries and photographs from the early days of the trip paint a picture of camaraderie and high spirits. They document their journey, the jokes they shared, the songs they sang. The last messages sent back were completely mundane, full of the usual details of a tough but successful trek. They had no idea that their expedition was about to end, not in triumph, but in a wave of inexplicable horror. They were about to encounter something in the frozen darkness that would turn these majestic mountains into a place of sheer terror. Something that, to this day, has never been fully explained. Weeks passed with no word. When the search party finally reached the group's last known position, on the slopes of Kolatsieko, a mountain whose name ominously translates to Dead Mountain in the local Mansi language, they found something deeply unsettling. The hiker's tent was there, but it was half buried in snow and had been violently slashed open. Not from the outside, but from the inside. It was as if something inside had made them desperate to escape, and escape they did. A trail of footprints led away from the camp, down the snowy slope towards a nearby forest. But these weren't the footprints of people prepared for the elements. They were the prints of bare feet, of socks, of a single shoe. In temperatures plummeting to minus 30 degrees Celsius, these experienced hikers had fled their only shelter, without proper clothing or footwear. Why? What could possibly scare them so badly that they would choose a certain death in the freezing cold over staying in their tent? The discoveries only got more gruesome. The first 2 bodies, Yuri Krivonoshenko and Yuri Doroshenko, were found under a large pine tree about a mile from the camp, dressed only in their underwear. Buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine deeper in the woods, the final 4 hikers were found, and their injuries were horrifying. Nicholas Thibault Brignoles had suffered a massive skull fracture. The force required to cause such damage was compared by medical examiners to that of a high-speed car crash. It was as if they had been crushed by an immense, invisible force. And then there was the most disturbing detail of all. Ludmila Dubinina was missing her tongue, her eyes, and part of her lips. To add another layer of strangeness, some of the victims' clothing was found to have significant traces of radioactive contamination. The official investigation was hastily concluded, with the cause of death officially attributed to a compelling natural force. The popular explanation, both then and now, is an avalanche. But that theory is riddled with holes. An avalanche wouldn't explain why the tent was cut from the inside. It doesn't account for the selective, massive internal injuries, with no external trauma. How does an avalanche remove a person's tongue? And what about the radiation? The case was closed, the files classified for decades, and access to the area was forbidden for years. This only fueled the speculation that the authorities were covering something up. The mystery deepened when witness accounts from the time began to surface. People in nearby towns and villages, other hikers, and even military personnel reported seeing strange, glowing orange spheres or lights in the sky over the mountains on the very night the hikers perished. Were these some kind of secret military tests gone wrong? The radiation on the clothing certainly points to something unconventional. Some suggested an attack by the local Mansi people, but there were no tracks, other than the hikers, and the nature of the injuries did point to a human assault. Others whispered about a Yeti attack, a legendary creature said to roam the Siberian wilderness. A few cryptic entries in the hikers' own diaries added to the suspense. One of the last pages of their group journal, written in a collective, light-hearted tone, suddenly ends with a chilling line. From now on, we know that the snowmen exist. Was this a joke, or a reference to something they had seen? We will never know. Even today, Dyatlov Pass remains a place of unease and dread. For years, hikers and adventurers have reported strange feelings in the area, a sense of being watched, an overwhelming, inexplicable fear that drives them to turn back. Locals continue to warn people away, believing the pass is cursed, a place where malevolent spirits roam. Some paranormal researchers have proposed a truly bizarre theory, that the mountain itself is somehow sentient and reacts to intruders. They point to infrasound, low-frequency sound waves that are inaudible to humans, but can induce feelings of intense panic, dread, and disorientation. Could the unique topography of the area have created an infrasound phenomenon that night, driving the hikers into a state of irrational madness? It might explain their bizarre flight from the tent, but it still doesn't explain the crushing internal injuries or the missing tongue. Some of the victims' personal effects, including cameras and diaries that might have held the final clues, were never recovered. It seems the mountain is determined to keep its secrets buried deep beneath the snow. The truth of what happened to those 9 souls remains elusive, lost to the silent, frozen landscape. Dyatlov Pass is more than just a location on a map. It's a testament to the terrifying power of the unknown. It is a place where fear becomes tangible, where the line between the natural and the supernatural blurs into obscurity. It is a stark reminder that some places on this earth are governed by rules we do not understand, places where nature is not just cruel, but where something unseen, something ancient, lingers in the shadows. And this concludes our exploration of 5 of the deadliest, most mysterious places where people entered and never returned. Thank you for joining us. If you want more chilling tales from the darkest corners of our world, make sure you stay subscribed to Tales of the Dark. In our next episode, we will reveal 5 more locations, each more terrifying than the last. Prepare for stories that will give you nightmares.